Hello 7th graders. This video is a review of dividing fractions. Before we get to dividing fractions, I want to review some key information related to dividing fractions. I want to start with reciprocal. So reciprocals are a fancy math term for the answer that you get, the numbers that you get when you switch the numerator and denominator of a fraction. Okay, so if we look at 3/4 and we switch the numerator with the denominator, we would get 4/3. So the reciprocal is just the fraction that we get when we switch the numerator and denominator of a fraction. Okay, so if we have the fraction 1/2 and then we switch the top and the bottom, you will end up with 2/1. 2/1 is the reciprocal of 1/2, and 1/2 is the reciprocal of 2/1. Reciprocals are important for us to understand because when we multiply a number by its reciprocal, we are creating a fraction equal to 1. Okay, so for example, when we have 3/5 times 5/3, we would get 15/15, which is a fraction equal to 1. Okay, so reciprocals can help us when we are dividing fractions in a couple different ways. So when we look at, whenever you divide something by a fraction, you can multiply it by the reciprocal of that fraction. Okay, so for example, if we have 1/2, if we want to multiply that, if we multiply it by a number by 1/2, we really are dividing by 2, because this 2 is on the bottom of the fraction symbol. So we can say we are also dividing by 2. Okay, now if we divide something by 2, we can also say we are dividing by 2/1, because we can always create a fraction by placing any number over 1. Okay, and the important thing to see here is that we have reciprocals. Okay, so when dividing by or multiplying something by 1/2 is the same as dividing by 2/1. Okay, let's look at some examples and see how this works. So, in order for us to divide fractions, we need to rewrite our division problem so that you are multiplying by the reciprocal instead. And when you multiply, you will get the answer for the original division problem. Okay, so for example, 3/4 divided by 2/7. Okay, one thing I want to point out when we're dividing fractions and we are getting reciprocals, we are only looking for the reciprocal of the second fraction, or the fraction that we are dividing by. Okay, so the first fraction will stay the same, so we would have 3/4, and then we change that division symbol to multiplication, and then we multiply by the reciprocal of 2/7, which would be 7/2. Okay, and now we know that multiplication of fractions is, we can just multiply the top and the bottom of the fraction. So we would have 3 times 7, which would give us 21, and 4 times 2, which would give us 8. Okay, now this fraction is simplified into lowest terms, but we can change it from a mixed number, or from an improper fraction to a mixed number. And in order to do that, we would divide 21 by 8. So 21 divided by 8. Okay, we know that 8 times 3 is 24, so it'll only go in 2 times. So 8 times 2 will give us 16, and that will leave us with 5. Okay, so our answer will be 2 and 5/8. Okay, so you can either, depending on what the assignment asks you to do, leave it in a improper fraction or change it to a mixed number. Okay. Now, something else that I think you probably have heard before and related to dividing fractions is the keep, change, flip saying. So we can, I'll give you those acronyms now, and then you can use them as we go forward. So the keep, change, flip method, we're going to keep this first fraction. We're going to change the division to multiplication. So we'll change the division to multiplication, and then we'll flip the second fraction. Okay, so keep, change, flip, and you can see we did that over here. We kept the first fraction, we changed division to multiplication, and then we flipped the second fraction. All right, I'm going to go ahead and do a couple examples. You can go ahead and watch, and then you'll have an opportunity to try some on your own. Okay, so the first one, 1/6 divided by 2/3. We're going to keep the first fraction. We're going to change division to multiplication, and we're going to flip that second fraction. We're going to get the reciprocal. So we'll have 1/6 times 3/2. And then we are able to just multiply straight across. 1 times 3 is 3. 6 times 2 is 12. Okay, we know that 3 and 12 are common. We can divide each one by 3. So divide by 3 on the top, divide by 3 on the bottom, and we would end up with 1/4. So 1/6 divided by 2/3 is equal to 1/4. What that really means is that there is 1/4 copy of 2/3 in 1/6. All right, next one. We have a mixed number. So in order for us to simplify or create or complete these operations, we need to move it or create an improper fraction. So in order to do that, we can multiply here and add up here. So we would have 2 times 2 is 4, plus 1 is 5. So we would have 5/2. And then we'll change that division to multiplication. And we'll take the reciprocal of 3/4, which is 4/3. And now we are ready to multiply straight across. 5 times 4 is 20. 2 times 3 is 6. Okay. Both of these numbers are even, so we know we can simplify. If we divide the top and the bottom by 2, we will get 10/3. And if we need to change that into a mixed number, we can divide 10 by 3. And we know 3 times 3 is 9, so it'll go in 3 times. That'll be 9. We'll have 1/3 or 1 left over. So 10/3 is equal to 3 and 1/3. All right, now it's your turn. You can go ahead and pause the video here, complete these problems on your own, and come back and see how you did. All right, A, we have 1/2 divided by 2 3/4. So we're going to keep that first fraction. We're going to change the division to multiplication. And then we need to change this mixed number into an improper fraction. So we have times and plus. 4 times 2 is 8, plus 3 is 11/4. Okay. And then we need to take the reciprocal of 11/4. So that's equal to 11/4. Okay, we need to change that to 4/11. And now we have multiply straight across, and we have 4/22. And if we simplify that, divide by 2, we would get 2/11. Okay, hopefully you remembered this part to take the inverse of 11/4. All right, B. We need to change this first one into a improper fraction. Times and then plus here. 3 times 3 is 9, plus 1 is 10 over 3, and that fraction stays the same. Change that division to multiplication, and take the reciprocal of 1/4, which is 4 over 1, and multiply straight across. We have 40 over 3. And if your assignment tells you need to turn that into a mixed number, you need to divide 40 by 3. Okay, 3 times 10 is 30, and then that would leave us 10, and we know 3 times 3 is 9, so that would be 39. So I'm going to go for 13 here. 13 times 3 would give us 39, and that would leave us with 1. So our answer would be 13 and 1 over 3. Okay, we got 2 more examples for you. 5/7 divided by 7 and 1/2. So we can keep that 5/7. Change that division to multiplication. And then we need to change this mixed number into an improper fraction. So times and plus. 2 times 7 is 14, plus 1 is 15 over, 15 over 2. And we need to take the reciprocal of that. So our fraction would turn into 2 over 15. And then we can multiply straight across. Alright, now we have 5 times 2 is 10. And 7 times 15. Well, we know 7 times 10 would be 70. And 70 times 5 would be 35. And 70 plus 35 would be 105. Okay. And if we divide that by 10, we would get 1 on the top. And then we would get 10.5 on the bottom, so that will not work. So our answer is simplified there. So 5/7 divided by 7 and 1/2 is 10 over 105. Alright, last one here. 4/5 divided by 8 over 25. So our first fraction will stay the same, 4/5. Change that division to multiplication. And then we'll take the reciprocal of 8 25ths, which would be 25/8. And now we can multiply straight across. 4 times 25 is 100. And 5 times 8 is 40. Alright, now we need to simplify this. And we know that 100 and 40 are both even, so they would for sure divide by 2. But they also, we can take that 0, so we can use 20. So if we divide the top by 20 and the bottom by 20, we would get 100 divided by 20 is 5. And 4 divided by 20 is 2. So we have 5 halves. Now if we need to change that into a mixed number, we do 5 divided by 2. We know 2 will go into 5 2 times. 2 times 2 is 4. That would leave us with 1. So we would have 2 and 1/2. Alright, hopefully this was a good refresher for you.